December 17th, 2024, 6:47 a.m. 30 miles north of Denali, Alaska, Raymond Blackwood stood over the ancient steel trap, his breath fogging in the -30-degree air, staring at something that should not exist. A white wolf. Pure white, massive. One front paw caught in the iron jaws of a trap Raymond himself had set 43 years ago and forgotten about until this exact frozen moment. The wolf was not struggling. That should have been Raymond's second warning sign after the impossible color. Wolves fought traps. They twisted and screamed and tore their own flesh trying to escape. This one just sat there in the snow, watching Raymond with eyes the color of amber honey, as if it had been waiting for him specifically. Raymond's arthritic fingers tightened on his walking stick. 78 years old, 43 years since he had set that trap, 43 years since he had walked this exact section of forest, and somehow, impossibly, the trap still worked, still held, still waited. The wolf tilted its head, studying him with an intelligence that made Raymond's skin prickle beneath his thermal layers. "Jesus," Raymond whispered, the word crystallizing in the frozen air. Before we continue this incredible journey, if stories about the extraordinary connections between humans and the wild touch your heart, hit subscribe. Share in the comments what time and city you're watching from. Now, let's see what happens next. Raymond had not meant to be out here at all. His cabin was 6 miles south, a small timber structure he had built with his own hands in 1979, when he still believed isolation would heal the parts of him Vietnam had broken. He had been checking his newer trapline, the one he actually remembered setting, when the wind shifted and he caught a scent that pulled at something deep in his memory. Rust, old metal, blood. The scent led him here, to a section of forest he had not visited in over 4 decades. The trees were different now, taller some, dead and fallen. But the trap was exactly where he had left it, hidden under what was now 2 feet of December snow, camouflaged by time and neglect. And caught in it, impossibly, was a wolf that looked like winter itself had taken physical form. Raymond approached slowly. The wolf did not growl, did not bare its teeth, just watched with those unsettling amber eyes as the old man moved closer, each step crunching through the frozen crust of snow. 10 feet away, Raymond could see the trap clearly. The steel jaws had closed around the wolf's left front paw, just above the pad. Blood stained the white fur, but not as much as there should be. The wolf had not panicked, had not fought, had simply waited. "How long you been here, boy?" Raymond's voice cracked from disuse. He lived alone, spoke to no one for weeks at a time. The wolf's ear twitched at the sound. Raymond knelt with the slowness of old age and older injuries. His knees popped, his back protested. But he got down there, level with the wolf, and saw what he had missed from standing height. The wolf was thin, not starving, but lean in a way that spoke of hard travel and harder living. Its coat was matted with ice, and old scars crisscrossed its shoulders and flanks. This was not some young, inexperienced animal. This was a survivor, an alpha, Raymond's old trapper instincts whispered. Male, 8, maybe 9 years old, at the peak of his power. "Easy now," Raymond murmured, reaching for the trap mechanism. "This is going to hurt, but I'll make it quick." The wolf's eyes tracked his movement, but the animal remained perfectly still. Raymond had released dozens of wolves from traps in his years as a trapper, back when the state still paid bounties and young men still thought killing predators made them important. He knew wolves, knew their aggression, their fear responses, their unpredictability. This wolf showed none of those things. Raymond's fingers found the release spring. 43 years of rust and ice made it stubborn, but Raymond had spent his whole life being stubborn right back. He pulled. The spring resisted. He pulled harder, feeling something pop in his shoulder, old rotator cuff injury screaming. The jaws opened. The wolf pulled its paw free with a smoothness that seemed almost casual, as if it had been waiting patiently for Raymond to finish a simple task rather than release it from what should have been agony. "Go on then," Raymond said, sitting back on his heels, breathing hard from the exertion. "You're free." The wolf stood, shook itself, snow flying from its white coat in a cloud of crystalline powder, tested the injured paw gingerly, putting weight on it, finding it functional despite the trauma. Then it looked at Raymond and did not move. "Go on," Raymond repeated, waving his hand. "Get out of here. Back to your pack." The wolf sat down. Raymond blinked. In 40 years of interacting with wild animals, he had never seen a wolf voluntarily remain in the presence of a human after being freed. They ran. Always. Self-preservation was the most basic instinct. "What's wrong with you?" Raymond asked, genuinely confused now. "You hurt somewhere else?" He looked the wolf over more carefully. No obvious injuries beyond the trapped paw. No signs of illness. The animal's breathing was steady, its eyes clear and focused. The wolf stood again, took 3 steps away from Raymond, then stopped and looked back. Deliberate. Unmistakable. "Follow me." "No," Raymond said firmly. "I don't follow wolves. I'm 78 years old and my cabin is 6 miles that direction." He pointed south. "Whatever you want, I ain't interested." The wolf took another 3 steps, stopped, looked back. Raymond felt something shift in his chest, recognition of a pattern he had seen before in the war. Soldiers who needed help but could not speak the language. Interpreters trying desperately to communicate across barriers of culture and word. That same intensity, that same desperate need. "This is stupid," Raymond muttered to himself, following a wolf. Stupid old man. But he stood up anyway, knees protesting, and took 1 step toward the wolf. The wolf's tail moved, not quite a wag, more like acknowledgement. Then it turned and began walking north, limping slightly on its injured paw, but moving with purpose through the deep snow. Raymond Blackwood, who had survived 3 tours in Vietnam, who had lived alone in the Alaskan wilderness for 45 years, who had not trusted another living soul since 1973, followed the white wolf into the forest. They walked for 30 minutes. The wolf maintained a steady pace, not fast but not slow, adjusting its speed whenever Raymond fell too far behind. Every 100 yards or so it would stop and look back, making sure the old man was still following. Raymond's practical mind catalogued the stupidity of what he was doing. He was getting farther from his cabin. The temperature was dropping as the sun barely cleared the 12th southern horizon. His shoulder throbbed where he had wrenched it opening the trap. He had maybe 3 hours of daylight left, and winter daylight in Alaska at this latitude was dim even at its peak. But something else, something deeper than practicality, kept him moving. The wolf moved like it had a destination, like this was not random wandering but purposeful navigation. And Raymond had learned in the jungle that sometimes you survived by trusting the things that did not make sense. The forest changed as they walked. The trees grew denser, older growth that had somehow escaped logging. The ground rose gradually, entering foothills Raymond barely remembered. He had explored this area decades ago, in his younger years, but time and isolation had made him forget the details. The wolf stopped suddenly. Its ears pricked forward. Its body went rigid in that specific way that meant it had detected something. Raymond stopped too, hand instinctively going to the hunting knife on his belt. Old soldier reflexes never died, even when the soldier got old. The wolf looked back at him, then forward again, then took 5 careful steps and stopped at the edge of a small clearing. Raymond moved up beside it, breathing hard from the elevation and exertion. The clearing was maybe 40 feet across, roughly circular, ringed by dense pine and spruce. In the center, barely visible under a thick layer of snow and ice, was wreckage. Airplane wreckage. Raymond's heart stopped, then started again, pounding hard. He knew this wreckage. Oh God, he knew it. November 8th, 1981, 43 years ago. Same year he had set that trap and never returned to check it. A small Cessna had gone missing in this region. A pilot and his 8-year-old daughter flying from Anchorage to Fairbanks. The search had lasted 2 weeks. They had found nothing. Raymond had been part of the civilian search effort, had walked these forests for days, had never found this clearing, never found this wreckage, never brought those bodies home. And now, 4 decades later, a white wolf had led him straight to it. Raymond stepped into the clearing on legs that felt numb from more than just cold. The plain was barely recognizable under decades of snow, ice, and vegetation. The tail section had broken off and lay 30 feet from the main fuselage. The wings were crumpled. The cockpit was crushed on the left side where it had hit the trees. The wolf followed him into the clearing but maintained distance, watching as Raymond approached the wreckage with a respect that felt almost human. Raymond's hands shook as he brushed snow from the fuselage door. The metal was so cold it burned even through his gloves. He pulled, expecting resistance, but the door was already partially open, jammed but not sealed. He pulled harder. The door scraped open 18 inches. Enough. Raymond pulled out his flashlight, hands shaking so badly it took 3 tries to turn it on. The beam cut through the dark interior of the cabin. 2 skeletons. Pilot seat and passenger seat. Adult and child. Exactly where they should be. No, wait. Raymond's light caught on something that made his breath stop. The child's seat was empty. The seatbelt was unbuckled. The seat itself was positioned weirdly, turned sideways, as if someone had moved it. And on the floor of the cabin, barely visible under accumulated debris, was a small pink backpack, child-sized. The fabric was degraded but still recognizable, but no child's body. Raymond backed away from the plane, mind reeling. The pilot had died on impact. That was clear from the skeletal position, the crushed cockpit. But the daughter? He turned to look at the clearing more carefully, playing his flashlight over the snow, looking for any sign, any indication of what had happened to an 8-year-old girl who had somehow survived the initial crash. The wolf moved, drew Raymond's attention. It was standing at the far edge of the clearing, near a break in the trees that Raymond had not noticed before. Not quite a trail, but a gap in the vegetation, an animal path maybe, or just a natural opening. The wolf looked at Raymond, looked at the path, looked back at Raymond. There's more. "No," Raymond said out loud. "No, this is insane. I need to get back. Radio this in. Tell the authorities." The wolf did not move, just stood there, patient as stone, waiting. Raymond Blackwood had spent 45 years in these woods, avoiding exactly this kind of thing. Avoiding connection, avoiding responsibility, avoiding the parts of life that required him to care about anything beyond his own survival. But 43 years ago, he had failed to find this plane, had given up after 2 weeks and gone back to his isolated existence, had lived his whole life knowing he had not searched hard enough, not cared enough, not tried enough. And now something, some impossible white wolf that should not exist, was giving him a second chance. "Damn it," Raymond whispered. He followed the wolf. The path led downhill, winding through dense spruce that blocked what little sunlight penetrated this far north in December. Raymond's flashlight beam bounced with each step, creating dancing shadows that made the forest feel alive and watching. The wolf moved like a ghost ahead of him, that white coat blending with snow patches until Raymond could track it only by movement, by the slight limp, by occasional amber eyes reflecting his light when the animal looked back to ensure he still followed. They had been walking for 15 minutes when Raymond's boot caught on something under the snow. He stumbled, caught himself against a tree, his bad shoulder screaming in protest. The wolf stopped immediately, turning back to watch. "I'm fine," Raymond muttered, annoyed at his own weakness, at the betrayal of a body that used to carry 60 pounds of gear through Vietnamese jungle without complaint. "Keep going!" But the wolf did not move. It stared at the spot where Raymond had tripped, ears forward, body tense. Raymond looked down, used his boot to brush away snow. His heart lurched. A shoe, small, child-sized, pink with white flowers, the kind an 8-year-old girl might wear in 1981. The fabric was rotted, falling apart, but unmistakable. Raymond knelt slowly, brushing away more snow with his gloved hands, found the other shoe 3 feet away, both empty, both positioned as if they had been deliberately removed, not torn off by scavengers or violence. She had walked out of them, changed into something else, survived the crash and tried to find help. An 8-year-old girl, alone in November Alaska wilderness, with temperatures that dropped well below zero at night. Raymond stood, feeling the weight of 43 years pressing down on him. He had quit searching after 2 weeks, had convinced himself the plane must have gone down in the Canadian territories, somewhere beyond their search grid, had told himself there was nothing more he could do, had lied to himself because searching meant caring, and caring meant pain, and pain was something Raymond had spent decades learning to avoid. The wolf turned and continued down the path. Raymond followed, slower now, dreading what else they might find. The terrain grew rougher. They descended into a narrow ravine, where frozen creek water created sheets of ice over stones. The wolf navigated it with practiced ease despite its injured paw. Raymond slipped twice, catching himself on rocks that bit through his gloves. On the far side of the ravine, the wolf stopped at the base of a massive spruce. Its roots had created a hollow space, a natural shelter where ground met trunk. The opening was maybe 3 feet high, 2 feet wide, dark even with Raymond's flashlight. The wolf looked at Raymond, then at the hollow, then back at Raymond. In there. Raymond's hands shook as he knelt and pointed his light into the space. The beam illuminated compressed dirt, old pine needles, animal droppings, and something else, something that made his throat close. A blanket. Aviation emergency blanket, the kind required in small aircraft, wrapped around something small, folded carefully in the back of the hollow, protected from weather and scavengers by the tree's massive roots. Raymond reached in, his fingers brushed fabric that disintegrated at his touch, 43 years reducing wool to fragments. But beneath the blanket's remains, his hand found something solid, hard. He pulled it out into the light, a stuffed animal. A wolf, grey and white, synthetic fur matted but intact. The kind of toy a child might clutch while flying through a storm, might hold for comfort in the terrible hours after a plane crash. And tied to its neck with a piece of pink ribbon that matched the shoes, a small metal tag, the kind you could get engraved at any mall kiosk. Raymond held the tag up to his flashlight, squinting through vision that was not as sharp as it used to be. The engraving was worn but readable. Amanda Price. If lost, return to 907-555-0147. Amanda. The pilot's daughter had been named Amanda. Raymond remembered now, details flooding back from newspaper articles he had read in 1981. Thomas Price, age 34, pilot. Amanda Price, age 8, daughter. Flying from Anchorage, where Amanda's mother had died 6 months earlier from cancer. Thomas was moving them to Fairbanks for a fresh start. Neither had made it, or so everyone had believed for 43 years. But the blanket had been carefully folded. The toy had been deliberately left. This hollow had been used as a shelter, not a grave. Amanda Price had survived the crash, had walked away, had tried to find help. And then what? Where did an 8-year-old go in November, Alaska, with temperatures dropping towards zero? Raymond looked at the white wolf. The animal sat patiently in the snow, watching him with those unsettling amber eyes. Waiting. "Where is she?" Raymond asked, his voice rough. "Where did the girl go?" The wolf stood and walked deeper into the forest. They walked for another hour. The sun, already dim, began its early winter descent toward the southern horizon. Raymond's internal clock, calibrated by decades of wilderness living, told him it was nearly 2 in the afternoon. He had maybe 90 minutes of useful light left. His cabin was now at least 10 miles away, maybe more. If he did not turn back soon, he would be spending the night in the forest with inadequate supplies and a wounded shoulder. The smart thing was to turn back, Mark this location. Return tomorrow with proper equipment. Radio the authorities. Let someone else handle this 43-year-old mystery. But Raymond kept walking, because the wolf kept leading, and because something in him recognized that this was not about smart choices. This was about a debt he had owed for 4 decades, a search he had abandoned too soon, a failure he had never forgiven himself for, even if he had spent those years pretending not to care. The forest opened suddenly into another clearing, smaller than the crash site, maybe 20 feet across, and in the center, so unexpected Raymond actually stopped breathing, was a cabin. Not a large cabin, barely bigger than a hunting shack, maybe 12 feet by 12 feet. Timber construction, surprisingly solid despite obvious age. The roof sagged but held. The single window was intact. The door, fashioned from rough-cut boards, hung slightly crooked but remained functional. Raymond had explored these forests for decades, had never seen this structure, had never known it existed. The wolf walked to the cabin door and sat down, looked at Raymond. Inside. Raymond approached slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. The cabin had been built a long time ago. That was clear from the weathering, from the moss growth on the north side, from the way the forest had begun to reclaim the clearing. But someone had maintained it. Recently, within the last few years. The door was not locked. Raymond pushed it open. The hinges creaked but moved smoothly, as if they had been oiled, as if someone still used this place. The interior was dim, lit only by the fading daylight through the single window. Raymond's flashlight revealed a space that was simple but functional. A narrow cot against one wall, still holding an old sleeping bag. A small wood stove in the corner, long cold, but with split wood stacked neatly beside it. A shelf holding canned goods, most so old their labels had faded to blank, but some newer. Recent. Someone had been here. Recently. Using this place. Maintaining it. On the wall above the cot, drawn in what looked like charcoal or burned wood, were markings, tallies, lines grouped in 5s, covering nearly the entire wall. Raymond stepped closer, counting. Hundreds of marks, maybe thousands, years' worth. And in the corner, drawn carefully in what Raymond's gut told him was a child's hand, were 3 words. Amanda is alive. The handwriting was shaky, but deliberate. The kind of writing an 8-year-old might produce. And beside it, another message in different handwriting, more confident, more mature. 2024. Still here. Raymond's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the cot, the sleeping bag releasing a puff of dust and old air. His mind tried to process what his eyes were showing him. Amanda Price, 8 years old in 1981, would be 51 now. If she had somehow survived, if she had lived in this cabin, if she had marked the passage of time on these walls for 43 years, impossible. Except he was sitting in the cabin, looking at the marks, holding a stuffed wolf toy with her name on it. The white wolf appeared in the doorway, blocking most of the light. It limped into the cabin, favoring its injured paw, and lay down on the floor beside the cot, as if this was familiar territory, as if it belonged here. Raymond looked at the wolf, really looked at it for the first time. White coat, amber eyes, the specific way it moved, the intelligence in its gaze. 9 years old, his trapper instincts had told him, at the peak of its power. But what if he was wrong about the age? What if this wolf was older, much older? What if it had been coming to this cabin for years? What if it knew Amanda? Where is she? Raymond asked the wolf directly. Where is Amanda now? The wolf's ears twitched. It stood, moved to the door and looked out into the gathering darkness, then back at Raymond. But it was too late. Raymond could feel it. The daylight was nearly gone. The temperature was dropping fast. Making the journey back to his cabin now would be suicidal. He would never make it before full dark. And night travel in December, Alaska, without proper equipment, was how even experienced wilderness people died. He was trapped here for the night, in Amanda Price's cabin, with a white wolf that had led him to a 43-year-old mystery. Raymond stood and walked to the wood stove. The kindling and split wood were dry, well maintained. Someone had prepared this cabin to be used. He checked the stovepipe, found it clear, opened the flue. His hands moved through the familiar motions of building a fire, muscle memory from thousands of Alaska nights. The fire caught quickly, spreading warmth into the small space. The wolf watched from the doorway, making no move to leave despite the flames. Raymond checked the shelf of canned goods. Most were too old to trust, but 3 cans looked newer. He picked one up, examined it in the firelight. Beef stew. Expiration date, October 2024. 2 months ago. Someone had been here 2 months ago, had stocked this cabin, had maintained it. Amanda? At 51 years old? Still alive? Still surviving out here? Or someone else? Someone who knew about this place? Raymond opened the can with his pocket knife, heated it over the fire using an old tin cup he found on the shelf. The wolf watched with interest, but made no move toward the food, as if it understood this was not meant for it. As darkness fell completely outside, Raymond ate the stew slowly, thinking, processing. The fire crackled. The wolf remained by the door, alert and watchful. After eating, Raymond examined the cabin more thoroughly, found a plastic storage container under the cot. Inside were items that made his chest tighten. A child's jacket, pink, size for an 8-year-old, carefully preserved in a plastic bag. School papers, the handwriting improving with each page, as if someone had taught themselves to write better over years. A notebook, pages filled with observations, weather patterns, animal behavior, survival notes. The handwriting adult now, confident, educated despite no formal schooling. The final entry was dated November 14, 2024, 1 month ago. Wolfpack moving south for winter. White Alpha still visiting. Leg injury from old trap but healing. Brought him food. He trusts me now. After all these years, he finally trusts me. Raymond read the entry 3 times, looked at the white wolf lying by the door. The leg injury. The old trap. His trap. The one he had set 43 years ago and forgotten. The trap that had caught this wolf just this morning. Except the entry was dated a month ago, before Raymond had freed the wolf, before any of this had happened. Unless... Raymond's mind reeled. The trap had been set in 1981. Forgotten. What if the wolf had been caught before? Years ago? What if Amanda, living out here alone, had found it, freed it, created a bond? What if this wolf had been visiting Amanda for years, bringing her food, protecting her? And now, with Amanda gone somewhere, the wolf had gotten caught again in the same trap, had waited there, not struggling, not fighting, just waiting. Because it knew, somehow knew that if it waited long enough, someone would come. Someone would free it. Someone who could help. Someone who could find Amanda. The wolf's head lifted. Its ears swiveled toward the door. A low growl rumbled in its chest. Raymond grabbed his flashlight, moved to the window. Outside, in the circle of firelight spilling from the cabin, shapes moved in the darkness. Wolves. 5 of them. Grey and brown, smaller than the white alpha, but still formidable. They paced the clearing's edge, keeping distance from the cabin, but clearly interested. The white wolf stood, limped to the door, made a sound that was not quite a growl, not quite a howl. Communication. The pack responded. One of the grey wolves, slightly larger than the others, stepped forward, dropped something from its mouth into the snow, then retreated. The white wolf looked at Raymond, then at the object in the snow, then back at Raymond. For you. Raymond opened the door carefully. The cold hit him like a fist. The pack backed up but did not flee. The white wolf limped out, approached the object, then returned to the cabin doorway, waiting. Raymond stepped out into the snow. The pack watched, eyes reflecting his flashlight like small moons. He approached. The dropped object slowly, aware of every predator eye tracking his movement. It was a backpack, modern, maybe 2 years old, frozen solid. Raymond picked it up, the weight telling him it contained something substantial. He backed toward the cabin. The pack watched, but made no aggressive moves. Once Raymond was back inside, they melted into the forest, gone as silently as they had appeared. The white wolf entered last, settling back into its spot by the fire. Raymond set the backpack down and worked the frozen zipper open with his knife. Inside he found a satellite phone, dead battery but intact, a medical kit, professional grade, well stocked, and a journal, leather-bound, recent. The handwriting inside matched the notebook under the cot. Amanda's handwriting, adult Amanda. Raymond flipped to the last entry, dated November 28, 2024. 19 days ago. Leg infection worsening. Antibiotics gone. Need to reach Denali Medical Station, but storm coming. Too weak to travel. If I don't make it, let someone know I survived. I survived the crash. Survived 43 years. My father would be proud. Left pack with supplies for wolves. They've kept me alive all these years. White Alpha knows the way to help. If something happens to me, he'll know. He'll find someone. Tell Mom I'm sorry I couldn't come home. Tell her I tried. Tell her I thought about her every single day. The entry ended there. No date after that. No indication of whether Amanda had attempted the journey, whether she had made it, whether she was still alive. But the pack had brought her supplies to Raymond. The white wolf had led him here, had shown him the crash site, the shelter, the cabin, the evidence. The wolf was trying to get him to find Amanda, to save her. But where was she? If she had tried to reach the medical station 19 days ago, weak with infection, in the middle of November storms, Raymond looked at the wolf. Where is she? Where did Amanda go? The wolf stood, walked to the door, looked out into the darkness. But not tonight. Even the wolf seemed to understand that. It returned to the fire, lay down and closed its eyes. Tomorrow, when light returned, the search would continue. Raymond spent the night in Amanda Price's cabin, reading her journals by firelight, learning about the child who had survived a plane crash, who had found this abandoned trapper's cabin and claimed it, who had taught herself to hunt, to fish, to trap, to survive, who had befriended a wolf pack that protected her, fed her, kept her alive through 43 Alaska winters, who had grown into a woman without ever seeing another human being, who had marked time on walls and written journals to keep herself sane, who had dreamed of going home but never found the courage or the way, who had finally, desperately, tried to reach help, and might have died in the attempt. Raymond fell asleep sometime near midnight, the journal open on his chest, the fire burning low, the white wolf standing guard by the door. He dreamed of Vietnam, of soldiers he could not save, of searches he had abandoned, of failures that defined his life more than his successes. He woke before dawn to the wolf's cold nose pressing against his hand. It was time. Time to finish what he should have finished 43 years ago. Time to find Amanda Price. December 18th, 2024, 5:23 a.m. The wolf stood at the cabin door, silhouetted against the pre-dawn darkness, every line of its body communicating urgency. Raymond pulled on his boots with fingers stiff from cold and age. His shoulder throbbed where he had wrenched it yesterday opening the trap. His knees protested standing after a night on the thin cot. 78 years old and about to trek through Alaska wilderness, following a wolf to find a woman who might already be dead. But Amanda's journal entries had burned themselves into his mind during the sleepless hours. Her description of the crash, her terror in those first days, her slow, painful adaptation to isolation. Her friendship with the wolves that had saved her life more times than she could count, and that final entry, too weak to travel. If I don't make it, 19 days ago, in November, Alaska, with infection and no antibiotics. The odds were not good. Raymond knew that. had seen enough death to recognize when the math stopped adding up in favor of survival. But he also knew that Amanda Price had survived 43 years when no one should have survived 43 days, had beaten odds that would have killed anyone else, had found a way when there was no way. If she was still fighting, Raymond owed it to her, owed it to the search he had abandoned in 1981, to fight too. He packed Amanda's backpack with supplies from the cabin. The satellite phone, useless without power but maybe salvageable if he reached his own cabin. The medical kit, which might be critical if Amanda was still alive. Her journal, which deserved to be read by someone who loved her, even if that someone had been dead for 43 years. The wolf watched these preparations with an intensity that felt almost human. When Raymond shouldered the pack and opened the door, the animal immediately turned north and began walking. The dawn light, dim and grey, revealed a landscape transformed by overnight snow. Fresh powder covered everything, obscuring the trail they had followed yesterday. But the wolf moved with certainty, following some internal map that had nothing to do with visible paths. They climbed out of the ravine, the wolf moving slower now to accommodate Raymond's age and the ice-slicked rocks. At the top, the forest opened into rolling hills, covered in stunted spruce and exposed granite. The wind hit them with brutal force, driving snow into Raymond's face despite his raised hood. The wolf paused, testing the air with its nose, ears swiveling to catch sounds Raymond's old ears could not detect. Then it turned slightly west and continued. They walked for 2 hours. Raymond's legs burned. His breath came in ragged gasps that froze on his scarf. The temperature had dropped overnight, the morning reading somewhere around -35. Cold enough to kill in minutes without proper clothing. Cold enough that frostbite became a real concern despite his layers. But the wolf kept moving, and Raymond kept following. At 7:47 a.m., with the sun barely clearing the horizon, the wolf stopped at the edge of a steep slope. Below them, maybe 300 feet down, Raymond could see a frozen lake, and on the far side of that lake, barely visible through blowing snow, was a structure. The Denali Emergency Medical Station. Raymond recognized it from maps he had studied years ago, a wilderness outpost maintained by the Park Service for injured hikers and climbers. Staffed seasonally, closed during winter, but stocked with medical supplies and emergency communications. Amanda had been trying to reach it, had made it this far, to this slope, could see her destination across the frozen lake. But had she made it down, across, to the station? The wolf began descending the slope, picking its way carefully between rocks and ice patches. Raymond followed, using his walking stick for balance, testing each step before committing his weight. Halfway down, his boot slipped. He fell hard, sliding 10 feet before catching himself on an outcrop. Pain exploded in his bad shoulder. He bit back a scream, tasting blood where he had bitten his tongue. The wolf stopped immediately, climbing back up to where Raymond lay gasping. It nosed his face, whining softly. "I'm okay," Raymond gasped. "Just give me a minute." But when he tried to stand, his left ankle refused to bear weight properly. Not broken, his experienced mind assessed, but badly twisted. Maybe a partial tear of the ligaments. He looked down at the remaining descent, maybe 150 feet, then half a mile across the frozen lake, then whatever waited at the medical station. With a twisted ankle, at 78, in -35-degree weather. The smart thing was to turn back, try to reach his cabin, radio for help from there, let search and rescue handle this. But Amanda had been alone for 43 years. If she had made it to that station, if she was there now dying of infection, she had already waited too long. Raymond stood, putting most of his weight on his good leg and the walking stick. "Let's go." The descent took 40 minutes that felt like hours. Every step sent lightning up Raymond's leg. Twice more he slipped, catching himself barely in time. The wolf stayed close now, moving at his pace, sometimes positioning itself to brace his falls. They reached the bottom. The frozen lake stretched before them, wind-scoured ice gleaming like dark glass. The medical station was clearer now, maybe half a mile distant. A small building, Forest Service green, with a metal roof and shuttered windows. Raymond started across the ice. His injured ankle screamed with each step. The wolf walked beside him, close enough that Raymond could feel its body heat through his layers. Halfway across, Raymond saw them, tracks in the snow that had drifted across the ice. Boot prints. Small. Leading from the shore they had just left toward the medical station. Amanda's tracks. Had to be. But the tracks were partially filled with snow. Days old, maybe weeks. And they showed something that made Raymond's chest tighten. The stride was uneven, stumbling. The left boot dragged in places, as if the person could barely lift it. And every 20 feet or so, there were impact marks in the snow, places where someone had fallen, gotten up, fallen again. Raymond followed the tracks. They led directly toward the station, unwavering despite the obvious struggle. Amanda had known where she was going, had kept herself pointed in the right direction, even when she could barely walk. The last 100 yards showed blood. Not much. Just spots every few feet. Dark. Brown against the white snow. Old blood. Frozen blood. The tracks led to the station's door, stopped there. Raymond reached the building, the wolf pressed against his leg. The door was closed but not locked. Emergency stations never locked. Anyone desperate enough to reach them deserved access. He pushed the door open. The interior was dark, lit only by grey daylight through shuttered windows. Raymond's flashlight beam revealed a single large room. Medical supplies on shelves along one wall. Emergency cots folded against another. A wood stove, a radio setup. Everything you would expect in a wilderness medical station. And on one of the cots, covered by emergency blankets, a figure. Raymond's heart stopped, then started again, pounding so hard he could hear it. He crossed the room, each step echoing in the silence. The wolf followed, its nails clicking on the wooden floor. The figure on the cot was small, adult size but slight. One arm extended outside the blankets, the hand pale and still. Raymond reached out, touched the hand, cold, but not frozen solid cold, not death cold. He pressed his fingers to the wrist, searching, hoping, praying to a god he had stopped believing in 50 years ago. There, faint, thready, barely perceptible, but present, a pulse. Amanda Price was alive, barely, hanging on by threads, but alive. Raymond's training kicked in, military medic training from Vietnam, never fully forgotten despite the decades. He pulled back the blankets carefully, assessing. Amanda, and it had to be Amanda, even though Raymond had never seen a photo, had only imagined the 8-year-old grown into a woman, was unconscious. Her face was gaunt, weathered by decades of harsh sun and wind. Her hair was long, grey-streaked, pulled back in a practical braid. She wore wilderness clothing, layers of wool and synthetic, all soaked with old sweat. Her left leg, visible through torn pants, showed the infection. A wound just above the knee, badly inflamed, the skin around it red and hot despite her hypothermia. The leg was swollen to nearly twice its normal size. Sepsis, blood infection. Without antibiotics, without proper treatment, almost certainly fatal. But Amanda had made it here, had reached medical supplies, had tried to save herself. Raymond searched the shelves with shaking hands, found antibiotics, strong broad-spectrum stuff meant for emergencies, checked expiration dates, still good, found IV supplies, found a water filtration system that could produce clean water from melted snow. He worked fast, faster than his arthritic hands wanted to move. Started an IV line in Amanda's arm, his medic training coming back across 5 decades. The vein was collapsed from dehydration, but he got it on the second try. Connected a bag of saline solution, warming it first against his body, mixed antibiotic powder with sterile water, injected it into the IV line, prayed it was not too late, that the infection had not already spread too far, that her body could still fight back. The wolf watched from beside the cot, those amber eyes tracking every movement. When Raymond finished the IV setup, the animal laid its head on the edge of the cot, near Amanda's hand. The woman's fingers twitched, moving without consciousness toward the familiar presence. Raymond understood then. This was not the first time the wolf had kept vigil beside Amanda. This was a ritual repeated across years. The wolf watching over the woman finding comfort in the wolf's presence. A bond built over 4 decades of shared survival. Raymond checked the radio next. Battery-powered, thank God, not dependent on external power. He turned it on, adjusted to the emergency frequency, pressed the transmit button. Static, then a voice, crackling but clear. "This is Denali Park Service Emergency Channel. Identify yourself." Raymond's voice came out as a croak. He cleared his throat, tried again. "This is Raymond Blackwood. I'm at the Northern Wilderness Medical Station. I have a critical medical emergency. Woman, approximately 51 years old, severe leg infection, septic, dehydrated, hypothermic. She needs immediate evacuation." Silence on the other end. Then, "Say again? Did you say Northern Station? That facility is closed for winter. What are you doing there?" "Long story. I need medical evacuation now. Patient is critical. She won't survive another day without hospital care." More silence. Then, "Mr. Blackwood, weather conditions are extreme. Wind speeds are 45 miles per hour, with gusts to 65. Visibility is quarter mile. We cannot fly helicopters in these conditions." Raymond closed his eyes. Of course, December, Alaska, storm season. The same weather that had killed Thomas Price 43 years ago. "When can you fly?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. "Storm system is predicted to last another 36 hours. Earliest possible extraction would be December 20th, late morning. Can your patient survive that long?" Raymond looked at Amanda, unconscious, barely breathing, infection raging through her system despite the antibiotics he had just administered. Could she survive 36 more hours? Maybe, if the antibiotics worked, if the infection stopped spreading, if her body, weakened by illness and 4 decades of marginal nutrition, could mount an immune response. Maybe. "We'll be here," Raymond said into the radio. "December 20th, late morning. We'll be ready." "Copy that. Can you provide more information on patient identity for medical records?" Raymond hesitated. How did you explain Amanda Price? How did you tell someone that the girl who died in 1981 had actually survived for 43 years alone in the wilderness? "Name is Amanda Price," he said finally. "Date of birth? 1973. Sole survivor of 1981 plane crash. You'll want to verify that information." The silence on the other end stretched so long Raymond thought they had lost connection. Then, "Did you say Amanda Price? From the 1981 Cessna crash?" "Yes." "Mr. Blackwood, that girl was declared dead 43 years ago. Are you certain of this identification?" Raymond looked at Amanda's face, at the journals in her pack, at the stuffed wolf toy he had found in the tree hollow, the name tag still attached. "I'm certain. She survived. She's been living out here alone since 1981, and she's dying now. So get your damn helicopter ready to fly the second this storm breaks, because I didn't find her after 43 years just to watch her die in the next 36 hours. "Understood, Mr. Blackwood. We'll be ready. Keep her alive. Park service out." The radio went silent. Raymond sank down onto the cot beside Amanda's. His body finally registered what he had put it through in the last 24 hours. The twisted ankle throbbed. His shoulder burned. Every muscle ached. He was 78 years old, and he had just completed one of the most physically demanding days of his life. But there was no time to rest. Amanda needed care, needed monitoring, needed someone to fight for her while she could not fight for herself. The white wolf had not moved from its position beside her cot. It watched Raymond with those intelligent amber eyes, and Raymond could swear he saw gratitude there, recognition that the human had done what needed to be done. that Amanda was in hands that would protect her. "You brought me here," Raymond said to the wolf. "Caught yourself in my old trap. Led me to the crash site, the cabin. Here. You knew she needed help. Knew I could provide it." The wolf's tail moved slightly. Acknowledgement. "How long have you known her?" Raymond asked. "How many years have you been her guardian?" The wolf laid its head down on the cot beside Amanda's hand. The woman's fingers, moving unconsciously, found the familiar fur. Even in fever-induced unconsciousness, she knew the wolf was there, knew she was not alone. Raymond stood, wincing at the pain in his ankle. Work to do. He built a fire in the wood stove, warming the station, melted snow for water, filtered it, used it to make broth from emergency rations. When Amanda's body temperature rose enough to risk it, he tried to get some liquid nutrition into her. Most of it dribbled out, but some went down. A small victory. He changed the IV bag when it ran dry, administered another dose of antibiotics, checked her vital signs every hour. Pulse still weak but steady, breathing shallow but regular, fever high but not rising further. She was holding steady, not improving but not deteriorating, suspended in that terrible space between living and dying, where the outcome could tip either way with the smallest change. The wolf never left. It slept curled against the cot, woke whenever Raymond approached, watched his every action with protective vigilance. Once, when Raymond stumbled on his bad ankle and fell against the cot, the wolf was on its feet instantly, teeth bared, until it recognized the motion as accident rather than threat. Night fell. The storm outside intensified, wind shrieking around the building, snow rattling against shutters. Raymond kept the fire burning, kept the IV running, kept watch over a woman he had never met, but felt responsible for in ways that went deeper than logic. He read her journals by firelight while she slept, learned about her life. The first terrible winter, when she nearly starved. The spring, when she discovered the wolf pack, and they cautiously accepted her presence. The summers she spent gathering and preserving food. The long winters she endured alone in the cabin, marking time on walls. Her voice came through in the writing, intelligent, determined, occasionally humorous despite the circumstances. She wrote about missing things, chocolate, music, conversation, her mother's laugh. But she also wrote about finding things, peace in solitude, strength in self-reliance, family in the wolves who protected her. One entry, dated 2003, made Raymond's eyes burn. "Today I saw a plane, high overhead, contrail white against blue. First plane I've seen in 22 years. I thought about running into the clearing, waving, trying to signal, but my legs wouldn't move. What would I say if they found me? How would I explain 22 years alone? Would they put me in a hospital, a psychiatric ward? Would they study me like a specimen?" The wolves watched me watch the plane. White Alpha came and sat beside me, put his head on my knee, reminding me, this is home, this is family, this is enough. I let the plane pass, went back to the cabin. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe I should want rescue, but I survived this long, learned to be strong, learned to be free. Maybe that's worth more than going back to a world that forgot me. Raymond understood that entry in ways he had not expected to. He had made the same choice, though less dramatically, had chosen isolation over connection, had convinced himself that solitude was strength rather than just another form of surrender. But Amanda had done what Raymond never managed. She had built something in her isolation, had created relationship with the wolves, had maintained her humanity through journals and observations and the simple act of marking time, refusing to let the wilderness erase who she was. She had survived with dignity, with purpose, with grace. All things Raymond had failed to achieve in his own exile. At midnight, Amanda stirred, not waking but moving more than she had since Raymond found her. Her eyes moved beneath closed lids, rapid eye movement, dreaming. She made a sound, soft, almost a word. The wolf's head lifted. It made a low sound in response. Comfort, reassurance. Amanda's hand moved toward the sound, finding the wolf's fur, gripping it weakly. And for just a moment, her eyes opened, unfocused, fever-bright. She looked around the room without seeing, confusion evident on her face. Then her gaze found the wolf. Recognition flickered. Her grip on its fur tightened.
"Still here," she whispered, voice barely audible. "You're still here."
The wolf licked her hand gently. Yes, still here. Always here. Amanda's eyes drifted to Raymond. Confusion returned. She tried to speak, but no words came. Just a question in her gaze. "You're safe," Raymond said quietly. "You made it to the medical station. I'm here to help. Medical evacuation is coming in 36 hours. You just need to hold on." Amanda stared at him with those fever-bright eyes, trying to process, trying to understand how a stranger appeared in her world. "The wolf brought me," Raymond added. "He knew you needed help. Led me from my trap to your cabin to here. He's been taking care of you." Something in Amanda's expression shifted. Understanding, gratitude, and something else. Something that looked like relief that someone finally knew. That her story would not die with her. That 43 years of survival meant something beyond just existing. "Mom," she whispered. Raymond leaned
Closer. "Your mother? Tell her. Try to come home. Tell her I'm sorry."
"Your mother passed in 1980, Raymond said gently, "before the crash. But we'll tell her story. We'll make sure people know you survived, know how strong you were, know you never stopped fighting." Amanda's eyes closed, the brief clarity fading, but her hand remained in the wolf's fur, anchored to the one constant in her life. She slipped back into unconsciousness, but Raymond thought maybe her breathing was slightly easier. Maybe the antibiotics were working. Maybe her body was beginning to fight back. Maybe she would survive to tell her own story. The wolf settled back down, maintaining its vigil, and Raymond returned to his watch, keeping the fire burning, keeping the IV flowing, keeping hope alive through the longest night. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, 3 survivors waited for dawn. A woman who had beaten impossible odds for 43 years, a wolf who had chosen loyalty over freedom, and an
old man who had finally found a search worth completing.
December 19th, 2024, 6:12 a.m. Raymond woke to silence. The storm had stopped. Wind no longer howled around the building. Snow no longer rattled against shutters. The sudden quiet was almost louder than the noise had been. He sat up on the cot where he had finally allowed himself an hour of rest, every muscle in his body screaming protest. His ankle was swollen inside his boot, probably twice its normal size. His shoulder had stiffened overnight into near immobility. But none of that mattered, because Amanda was breathing easier. Raymond crossed to her cot, checking vitals with hands that shook from more than just cold. Her pulse was stronger. Her fever had broken sometime during the night, sweat soaking through the blankets. Her skin, when he touched her forehead, was cool. Not hypothermic cool, normal cool. The antibiotics had worked. Her body had fought back. She was winning. The white wolf raised its head from where it had
Maintained vigil all night. It looked at Raymond, then at Amanda, then back at Raymond. And if a wolf could smile, Raymond would swear this one did.
"She's going to make it," Raymond said quietly. "Your girl is going to make it." The wolf's tail thumped once against the floor. Agreement, relief, joy. Raymond changed Amanda's IV bag, administered another dose of antibiotics, cleaned and dressed the leg wound properly, now that he could do so without risking shock from moving her too much. The infection was still present, but visibly reduced. The angry red had faded to pink, the swelling had decreased. Given proper hospital care, she would recover fully. The leg would heal, the infection would clear, she would survive. At 8:30 a.m., Raymond tried the radio again. The emergency channel crackled to life immediately. Denali Park Service, this is Raymond Blackwood at Northern Station. Patient condition has improved. Fever broke overnight. She's stable. Ready for evacuation as soon as weather.
Permits. Copy that, Mr. Blackwood. Weather conditions are improving rapidly. Helicopter is being prepped now. Estimated arrival at your location is 11:00 hours. How is your own condition?
Raymond looked down at his swollen ankle, his useless shoulder. I'll need assistance boarding. Twisted ankle, injured shoulder, but mobile enough to get Amanda loaded. Understood. Medical team will assist. Mr. Blackwood, we contacted our records department about Amanda Price. There's something you should know. Raymond's gut tightened. What? Her mother, Catherine Price. She didn't die in 1980. The world stopped. Raymond's hand tightened on the radio so hard his knuckles went white. Say again? Catherine Price. She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in 1980, given months to live, but she went into remission. She's alive, Mr. Blackwood. She's 82 years old and living in Fairbanks. We contacted her an hour ago to inform her about Amanda. Raymond sat down hard on the nearest cot.
What did she say? The voice on the radio was quiet.
She cried. Then she asked us to tell Amanda she's coming. She'll be at the hospital when you arrive. She's been searching for 43 years, Mr. Blackwood. Never gave up. Every year she would call, check records, ask if any Jane Does matched her daughter's description. She knew Amanda might have survived. She never stopped believing. Raymond looked at Amanda, still unconscious but breathing steadily. 43 years alone in the wilderness. 43 years believing her mother was dead. 43 years of isolation when family had been searching, hoping, believing. Tell her, Raymond said into the radio, his voice rough. Tell Catherine that her daughter survived. Tell her Amanda is strong and brave and incredible. Tell her she raised a fighter. Copy that. We'll relay the message. See you at 11 hours. Park service out. Raymond set down the radio. The white wolf was watching him with those two intelligent amber eyes.
She has family, Raymond said to the wolf. Her mother is alive, been alive this whole time. Amanda has someone to go home to.
The wolf's tail wagged slowly, but something in its posture suggested understanding of what this meant. Amanda would leave, would go to hospitals, to her mother, to the world Amanda had been hiding from for 43 years. She would not come back to the wilderness, would not return to the cabin, would not maintain the relationship with the pack that had kept her alive. The wolf would lose her. Raymond understood that grief, had felt it himself too many times. Loss of connection, loss of purpose, loss of the one relationship that made life meaningful. You saved her, Raymond said quietly. Everything you did, leading me here, it gave her a chance at a real life, at family, at going home. That's what love does. It lets go when holding on would be selfish. The wolf laid its head on Amanda's cot, one last vigil before the helicopters came and changed
everything forever.
At 9:15 a.m., Amanda's eyes opened, truly opened this time, not fever-clouded but clear and aware. She looked around the medical station, processing. Then her gaze found the wolf. "Ghost," she whispered, voice hoarse from disuse. Her hand moved to the wolf's head, fingers tangling in white fur. "You're here." Ghost. She had named the wolf Ghost. Raymond filed that information away, thinking about Amanda's journals, her descriptions of the white wolf who had appeared in her life and stayed. Amanda's eyes moved to Raymond, recognition that he was a stranger, confusion about how a stranger had appeared in her world. "Who are you?" Not afraid, just curious, assessing. "Raymond Blackwood. I found you here 3 days ago. You made it to the station, but you were unconscious, severe infection. I've been treating you. Medical evacuation is coming in less than 2 hours." Amanda processed this. 3 days? You've been in and out of consciousness, mostly out. The antibiotics finally kicked in overnight. Your fever broke. You're going to be okay. Ghost brought you. Not a question, a statement, understanding in her eyes. Ghost led me from my trap to your cabin to here, showed me everything, made sure I found you in time. Amanda's hand tightened in Ghost's fur. Smart boy, So smart. "Amanda," Raymond said gently, "there's something you need to know about your mother." He watched her face carefully as he explained. Catherine Price, alive, in remission, searching for 43 years, coming to the hospital, waiting to see her daughter. Amanda's expression went through a dozen emotions: disbelief, hope, fear, joy, grief for wasted years, wonder at the impossible. "She's alive?" Amanda's voice broke. "All this time?" "All this time, and she never stopped looking for you, never gave up hope." Tears tracked down Amanda's weathered face. 43 years of tears, maybe, finally finding release. "I thought... Dad said she was dying, said we were moving to
Fairbanks to start over because she was gone.
I thought she was sick, but she survived. Just like you survived." Amanda sobbed then, deep, wrenching sounds that came from somewhere primal. Ghost whined, pressing closer. Raymond moved to the cot, offered his hand. Amanda gripped it with surprising strength for someone who had been near death 12 hours ago. "I could have gone home," she said between sobs. "All these years, I could have found her." "You didn't know. And Amanda, what you did, surviving out here, building a life, that's extraordinary. Your mother will understand. She'll just be grateful you're alive." Amanda cried for a long time. Ghost stayed pressed against her. Raymond stayed beside the cot, offering silent support. Finally, the tears slowed. Amanda wiped her face with shaking hands. "I don't know how to be around people anymore," she said quietly. "I've been alone for 43 years. What if I can't? What if I'm too damaged?" "You maintained your humanity."
In complete isolation, Raymond said. "You kept journals, marked time, observed the world around you. You didn't become feral, you became strong. Your mother will help you with the rest." "Will you?" Amanda hesitated. "Will you be there? At the hospital? I don't think I can face this alone." Raymond thought about his own isolation, his own decades of avoiding connection, his own fears of being too damaged to function in the world. "Yes," he said, "I'll be there." At 10:45 a.m., they heard the helicopters. Two of them, medical evacuation birds, appearing over the southern ridge. Ghost's ears pricked forward at the sound, body going tense. "It's okay, boy," Amanda murmured, hand in his fur. "They're here to help." The helicopters landed on the frozen lake, rotor wash sending up clouds of snow. Medical teams emerged, loading equipment onto sleds to bring up to the station. Ghost backed away from the cot as people entered. Too many humans, too much noise. The wolf retreated to the corner, watching with wary amber eyes. The medical team was professional and efficient. They assessed Amanda quickly, praised Raymond's treatment, prepared her for transport. Someone splinted Raymond's ankle, fashioned a sling for his shoulder. Through it all, Amanda kept her eyes on Ghost, and Ghost kept his eyes on Amanda. As they loaded Amanda onto a stretcher, she called out, "Wait, please, wait." The team stopped. Amanda looked at Ghost, huddled in the corner, clearly terrified by all these people but refusing to leave. "Ghost," Amanda said softly. "Come here, boy." The wolf hesitated, then slowly, carefully, moved across the room to the stretcher, put his head near Amanda's hand. "You saved my life," Amanda whispered. "So many times, for so many years. You were my family when I had no one. You kept me alive, kept me sane. I will never forget you. Never." Ghost whined softly. His tail stayed low. "You need to go back to your pack now," Amanda continued, tears streaming down her face. "Again. Back to the forest. Back to being wild. But I'll come back, I promise. When I'm healed, when I'm strong again, I'll come back and find you. I won't abandon you." The wolf licked her hand. Then, as the medical team prepared to move the stretcher, Ghost did something that made everyone in that station stop and stare. He howled. Long and mournful and beautiful. A wolf's goodbye. A wolf's love song. A wolf's promise to remember. And from the forest outside,
Other wolves answered, the pack Ghost belonged to, calling him home. Ghost looked at Amanda one last time. Then he turned and walked out of the medical station, limping slightly on his injured paw, heading toward the tree line where shapes moved in the shadows. Amanda watched until he disappeared. Goodbye, Ghost. Thank you for everything. The helicopter ride to Fairbanks took 90 minutes. Amanda slept most of the way, her body finally allowing rest now that survival was no longer in question. Raymond stayed awake, looking out at the wilderness below, thinking about how much had changed in 3 days. He had come out here to check his traps, to continue his isolated existence, to avoid connection and responsibility. And he had found a 43-year-old mystery, had completed a search he had abandoned, had saved a life that deserved saving, had maybe in the process saved himself a little too. The hospital in Fairbanks was ready when they landed. Medical staff swarmed Amanda's gurney, wheeling her toward the emergency department. But before they disappeared through the doors, a woman appeared, 82 years old, white hair, using a cane, moving as fast as her aged body would allow, tears streaming down her weathered face. Catherine Price. Amanda saw her mother and everything stopped. The gurney stopped. The medical team stopped. Time itself seemed to stop. Mom? Amanda's voice was barely a whisper. Baby girl. Catherine's voice broke. My baby girl. They met in the middle of the corridor, Catherine's hands finding Amanda's face. Amanda's hands gripping her mother's arms. 43 years of separation bridging in a single moment. I'm sorry, Amanda sobbed. I'm so sorry. I thought you were dead. I didn't know. I would have come home if I knew. Shh, Catherine soothed, stroking her daughter's hair like she was 8 years old again. None of that matters. You're alive. You're here. That's all that matters. You're home now. You're finally home. Raymond watched from a distance as mother and daughter clung to each other. The medical team gave them space, understanding that some healing could not be rushed. A nurse approached Raymond. Mr. Blackwood, we need to treat your injuries. If you'll follow me? Raymond nodded but hesitated, looking back at Amanda and Catherine. Amanda must have sensed his gaze because she looked up, met his eyes across the corridor, mouthed 2 words. Thank you. Raymond nodded. No words needed. Some debts of gratitude ran too deep for language. The next 3 days blurred together. Surgery on Raymond's ankle to repair torn ligaments, shoulder manipulation under anesthesia to relocate damage from the trap release, pain medication that made time feel elastic and strange. But through it all, Raymond kept track of Amanda's progress through nurses' updates. Surgery to clean the leg infection, aggressive antibiotic treatment, nutritional support for a body pushed to its limits, psychological evaluation for someone who had spent 43 years in isolation. The psychiatrists were amazed. Despite everything, Amanda showed no signs of severe mental illness. She was anxious around large groups, uncomfortable with enclosed spaces, but fundamentally sound. Her journals had kept her grounded. Her intelligence had kept her sane. Her relationship with the wolf pack had provided enough social connection to prevent complete psychological breakdown. She was, against all odds, okay. On the 4th day, Catherine Price visited Raymond's hospital room. She knocked gently, waiting for permission before entering. Mr. Blackwood, she said formally, I wanted to thank you personally. Raymond shifted in his bed, uncomfortable with gratitude. I just followed a wolf. Ghost did the real work. You freed Ghost from your trap. You followed him when you could have gone home. You stayed with Amanda when you could have called for help and left. You saved my daughter's life. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. How do I thank you for giving me back my child? You don't, Raymond said quietly. You just be happy. Give her the life she deserves. That's thanks enough. Catherine studied him with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Amanda told me about your cabin, about living alone for 45 years, about leaving your team, your friends, your life. She paused. She said you reminded her of herself. Someone who thought isolation was strength. Maybe it is. Or maybe it's just fear with a different name. Raymond flinched. Direct hit. Catherine sat down in the visitor's chair. I spent 43 years searching for my daughter. 43 years of calling park services, checking records, never giving up hope even when everyone said I was crazy. You know what I learned? Raymond waited. That love requires risk, requires vulnerability, requires showing up even when it's terrifying. I could have accepted that Amanda was dead, could have moved on, built a new life, protected myself from hope. But I didn't. I chose to believe. I chose to keep searching. And now I have my daughter back. What's your point? That you have people who would welcome you back too. That team you left. Those friends you pushed away. They're probably still out there, still hoping you'll come home. Raymond thought about Marcus, James, Thomas, the rangers who had tried to support him when everything fell apart, who he had abandoned without explanation. It's been 45 years, he said. They've moved on. Maybe.
Or maybe they're like me, still hoping, still believing you'll come back.
Catherine stood. Amanda wants to see you before she's discharged tomorrow. Room 314. Don't make her wait 43 years like you've made your team wait. She left before Raymond could respond. That evening, Raymond asked a nurse to wheel him to room 314. His ankle was casted, his shoulder immobilized, but he could move with assistance. Amanda was sitting up in bed, looking healthier than Raymond had seen her. Color in her cheeks, clarity in her eyes. She smiled when he entered. You came. You asked? Raymond positioned his wheelchair beside the bed. How are you feeling? Strange. Good, but strange. Like I'm in a dream and might wake up back in the cabin. She paused. They want to keep me another week for observation, psychological evaluation, nutritional support, making sure the infection is completely gone. Then Mom is taking me to her house. That's good. You'll need time to adjust. I'm terrified,
Amanda admitted. There are so many people, so much noise, so many lights. Sometimes I can't breathe and I just want to run back to the forest.
That's normal. Give yourself time. Raymond, Ghost is still out there. The pack. They're my family too. I can't just abandon them. You won't. Once you're strong enough, we'll go back together. Check on them. Make sure Ghost's paw healed properly. You can visit them. You don't have to choose between your human family and your wolf family. Relief flooded Amanda's face. You do that. Come back with me. Someone needs to make sure you don't get lost in your own woods. Amanda laughed, the sound rusty but genuine. Thank you for everything, for finding me, for not giving up, for understanding. Thank you, Raymond replied, for reminding me why searches matter, why we don't abandon people just because the odds are bad, why we keep trying even when it seems impossible. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Amanda spoke. Again. I read about the 1981 search, about the team that looked for us, about how they gave up after 2 weeks. She looked at Raymond. You were on that team, weren't you? Raymond nodded slowly. I was. We searched for 14 days, found nothing. I convinced them to expand the search grid north, away from where you actually were. If I had pushed south instead, if I had insisted we keep looking in the original area, we might have found you. Might have found the crash site, might have brought you home 43 years ago. And I would have been a traumatized 8-year-old who watched her father die, who never learned to be strong, who never discovered what I was capable of. Amanda reached out, took Raymond's hand. I don't regret those 43 years. They made me who I am. Yes, I missed out on my mother, on civilization, on normal life. But I also found something precious. I found myself, found strength I never knew I had, found a connection with nature that most people never experience. Those years weren't wasted. They were just different. You're incredibly generous. I'm incredibly grateful. Ghost brought you back for a reason,
Not just to save my life, but to finish something for both of us, to let us both stop running from the past. Raymond felt something crack open in his chest. 45 years of defensive walls crumbling. "I have a team," he said quietly. "Rangers I worked with before I left, before I gave up. Your mother thinks I should contact them." "You should," Amanda said firmly. "Life is too short to waste on isolation. Trust me, I'm an expert on the subject." 6 months later, June 2025, Raymond stood at the edge of a clearing 30 miles north of Denali. Amanda stood beside him, stronger now, healthier, her hair cut shorter, wearing modern hiking gear that she was still getting used to. They had hiked in that morning from Raymond's cabin, which Amanda had visited for the first time. She had been surprised by how similar it was to her own cabin. The same sparse functionality, the same evidence of someone choosing isolation over connection. "You ready?" Raymond asked. Amanda nodded. In her pack, she carried supplies, high-quality food, a gift for the pack that had kept her alive for 43 years. She called out, not words, a howl, perfect mimicry of wolf communication, learned over decades of practice. The forest answered, multiple voices, the pack. They emerged from the trees slowly, 5 wolves, grey and brown, wary but curious. And leading them, moving with only the slightest limp now, was Ghost. The white wolf stopped at the clearing's edge. His amber eyes found Amanda. Recognition blazed across the distance. Amanda knelt. "Hey boy, I came back. I promised I would come back." Ghost approached carefully, sniffed her extended hand. Then his tail began to wag, slowly at first, then with increasing enthusiasm. He pressed against her, whining softly, expressing joy in the only language he had. Amanda wrapped her arms around the wolf's neck, tears streaming down her face. "I missed you. I missed you so much." The pack watched this reunion with interest. One of the grey wolves, the beater, approached Raymond cautiously, sniffed his boots, recognized the scent from months ago, from the medical station, from the rescue. Raymond knelt slowly, offering his hand. The wolf considered, then, surprisingly, allowed the touch. Brief acceptance before backing away. They spent 2 hours with the pack, Amanda checking Ghost's paw, finding it healed perfectly, distributing food, documenting their health and behavior, reconnecting with the family she had chosen. As the sun began to descend, Amanda stood. "We need to go, but we'll come back next month, I promise." Ghost walked them to the edge of the clearing, watched as they prepared to leave. Then, just before they disappeared into the trees, he did something extraordinary. He looked directly at Raymond and lowered his head. Submissive posture. Gratitude posture. "Thank you for bringing her back." Raymond felt his throat tighten. "Take care of her when she visits. Keep her safe like you always have." Ghost's tail wagged once. Agreement. They hiked back as the evening light turned golden. Halfway to the cabin, Amanda spoke. "I talked to your old team, Marcus, James, Thomas, told them you were ready to reconnect. They said they'd be at your cabin tomorrow at noon." Raymond stopped walking. "You did what?" 45 years is long enough, Raymond. Time to stop running. Time to accept that people can forgive, that you deserve connection as much as I do. I abandoned them. And Ghost could have abandoned me when people showed up with helicopters. But he didn't. He stayed until he knew I was safe. Your team will understand. Just like I understood why you quit the search in 1981. Sometimes we make choices that seem right at the time, but haunt us later. The trick is learning to forgive ourselves. The next day at noon, 3 men arrived at Raymond's cabin. All in their 70s now, grey-haired and weathered, but unmistakably the same rangers who had worked under Raymond's leadership 5 decades ago. Marcus spoke first. "Heard you found Amanda Price. Heard you went on one hell of a search." "I had help," Raymond said, watching them carefully for signs of anger, resentment, the judgment he deserved. He saw none of those things, just welcome, just relief, just 3 old men who had missed their friend. "Welcome back, boss," James said quietly. "Took you long enough."
And just like that, 45 years of isolation ended, not with dramatic apologies or recriminations, just with acceptance, with family, with the pack you chose welcoming you home. 2 years later, December 2026, Raymond stood in a crowd at the Fairbanks Museum of Natural History. Amanda stood beside him, comfortable now in groups, though she still preferred the quiet of the wilderness. They were attending the opening of a new
exhibit. Amanda Price, 43 years in the wild. Her journals, her drawings, her story, displayed for the world to understand what survival meant, what resilience looked like, what the human spirit could achieve. But the real exhibit centerpiece was something else, a photograph blown up to 6 feet tall. Amanda, at age 53, kneeling in a forest clearing, arms wrapped around a massive white wolf, both of them looking at the camera with expressions of perfect contentment. The photographer had been Marcus, Raymond's old teammate, who had accompanied them on a return visit to the pack, who had captured a moment of pure connection between human and wild. But it was the plaque beneath the photograph that contained the twist, the information that made Amanda gasp when she first read it, the detail that Raymond had uncovered through months of research and had been waiting for the right moment to reveal. Ghost, the white wolf who saved Amanda Price. This remarkable white wolf, known to Amanda as Ghost, maintained a protective relationship with Amanda Price for over 43 years. Genetic testing of fur samples revealed something extraordinary. Ghost is descended from a wolf pack that was studied and protected by Thomas Price, Amanda's father, in his work as a wildlife biologist in the late 1970s. Thomas Price released detailed field notes showing he had bottle-fed and released a litter of orphaned wolf pups in 1978, 3 years before his death. DNA evidence suggests Ghost's bloodline traces directly to that litter. In essence, Ghost was protecting the daughter of the man who saved his family. A debt repaid across generations. A bond that transcended species and time. This exhibit honors both Amanda's incredible survival and Ghost's unwavering loyalty, proof that some connections run deeper than we can understand. Amanda stood staring at the plaque, tears streaming down her face. Dad saved Ghost's family, and Ghost saved me. Raymond put his hand on her shoulder. Your father would be proud of both of you, of what you survived, of what you became. Catherine Price joined them, using her cane but still strong at 84. Thomas always said wolves were family animals, that they remembered kindness. I guess he was right. Amanda looked at the photograph of herself and Ghost. He's old now, probably won't make it much longer. Wolf lifespans in the wild. He'll make it as long as he needs to, Raymond said firmly. Some bonds are strong enough to transcend even death. And in the forest 30 miles north of Denali, a white wolf raised his graying muzzle to the winter moon and howled, a message carried on the wind to the daughter of the man who had saved his family, a promise kept across generations. I am still here, still watching, still protecting, still family. Some searches take 43 years to complete. Some bonds take decades to understand. Some families are built not by blood, but by choice and loyalty and the simple act of refusing to give up on each other. This was one of those stories. This was family. This was home. And as the exhibit opened to the public, as people learned about the girl who survived and the wolf who protected her, one message rang clear. Love knows no boundaries. Not of species, not of time, not of the wilderness that tries to break us. Love endures. Love protects. Love brings us home. Always.